Every team, every topic, everywhere. This is Believe.
This is FunBelt Commissioner Keith Gill, and I listen to the FunBelt podcast.
This is the FunBelt podcast, part of the Believe Network.
Hosts to Dusty Thibodeau of Warhawk Report, Jeremy Harper of Howlraiser, and Shane Metlin of the Daily News Record.
I think it's potentially a very good week for the Sunbelts.
But I'm just kind of going off on a random rant. It's just frustrating. It's
I had this crazy dream. I guess it was about almost 6 years ago, where we should have a weekly Sunbelt Conference podcast.
Oh.
And if only I could just pull it off. I don't know how I can ever do that.
If only you had the personnel to help you reach that dream, Tibbs. If only you had dedicated men and women working to make that goal, that fantasy, a reality.
I might actually be able to grab some of that bag out of the transfer portal if that were the case.
By the way, did you see the Powerball, how high it got?
I am looking at my ticket right now on my desk that I still need to cash in, where I matched the Powerball.
Well, would that be good? Yeah. Well, it was won by somebody in Arkansas. Did you see that?
I did see that.
Yeah.
I thought it was you, because immediately afterwards you left the country.
I wish it were me. I actually bought a couple tickets. My wife did. I did. We played it, got nowhere close to winning. But here's the thing, Shane, if you could win that Powerball, would you donate it to your school of choice? Would you donate any money to like a football program?
To a football program, you said?
Sure, yeah.
I don't know. I might, but it might be a JUCO.
Like at first in Arkansas, there was a lot of people, oh, I hope it's a Razorback fan who won it. Oh, I hope it's an A-State fan who won it. I was like, man, I hope it was a UAPB fan. University of Arkansas at Pine Bluff. If anybody needs $1 billion sponsor, it's those guys. Arkansas doesn't need the money. A-State could use the money, but, we do okay without it. Give it to somebody like UAPB. And also I was like, wouldn't I be better off like funding, like if I cared about Arkansas State, wouldn't I be better off funding like maybe a research facility or a new school of something?
Vet school.
Just pouring more money into this corrupt and gross system, don't you think?
Yeah. I agree with you. I'm also sort of surprised to a degree, like, how everybody who plays the football video game, they'll pick like a team, like, say, ULM.
Okay.
And say, oh, I'm going to take ULM. I'm going to build my dynasty at ULM.
Wow.
Like, I'm sort of surprised there's never been like a real life version of that. Like some billionaire's son just been like, hey, wouldn't it be fun to like make some out of the way school like the national champions in football? Like, But I don't know. Maybe it'll happen someday.
I think the closest to that might be one, maybe Wayne Knight or whatever. What's the Knight guy and Phil Knight in Oregon? That could be.
I mean, he was an Oregon guy. Like he became who he was because he went to the University of Oregon and everything. I'm talking about like just a
random. Okay.
Yeah, just being like, you know what? It would be fun to make Idaho State the best football program in the country.
Yeah, that's the real challenge, right? Yeah. You don't just go, oh, I'm going to put all my money into Texas.
Yeah.
And be like, oh, look, I brought the championship to Texas. They already have a lot of money and players and resources. What a boring thing to do. Yeah, I think you're right, Shane. Tibbs, if you had won that Powerball, what would you have done with it?
It depends.
Okay.
I still can't get the president to take my call or to call me.
If you had $1 billion, I guarantee you he would take your call.
She.
Excuse me.
Sexist.
But at the same time, if you can't deal with me now, why do you want to deal with me all of a sudden?
Oh, wow. I can see that money has already made you insufferable, Tibbs. Even
No,
theoretically.
but that's true, though. I mean, if you're a dedicated alumnus of the university and they merely want to talk to you because the place is near and dear to your heart, but they don't want to reciprocate hearing from alumni what the vision of the school should be and how special this place is, what difference does it make?
If you had $1 billion, Tibbs, you can go in there. He even talked to the governor, Landry, who I hear is very involved in the football community. You
Only
can
an
have
election.
the entire administration at ULM wiped out. Tell them they're gone. You can put in all of your cronies, set up all of your guys. You can hire you can hire Tom Brady to be the GM of the athletic department. You could do all that with that $1 billion, Tibbs. You got to think huge.
No, I no.
All right. Well, speaking of huge, there were a lot of huge bowl games for the Sun Belt. Am I right, Tibbs?
Huge.
Yeah. They're pretty big. I mean, yeah. All right. I tell you one thing. I did check in on that Coastal Carolina Louisiana Tech game. Did you guys check in on that at all?
I did watch a little bit of it. It was during the day, though.
Yeah. It might have been one of the worst football games I've ever watched. It was just one turnover after another. Not just Coastal Carolina was doing okay. Louisiana Tech, I turned off the game. Coastal Carolina was winning something like 14-3 or something. I don't know how they ended up losing that game. But it was just ugly ass football, guys. Shane, did you see any of this?
I didn't see it live. I watched some highlights, and
It was hard to watch football. I was sitting in my hotel room in the Dominican Republic where I was vacationing, just cackling and saying things like, "What the hell?" My wife thought I was watching something, far more interesting. But yeah, that was one game that made me a little bit worried about Coastal Carolina, who ended up losing that game.
The funny thing I thought of that game was there was the pre-bowl activity where Sonny Cumbie, the head coach for Louisiana Tech, took a taser from one of the parish sheriff's officers or something like that. And my immediate thought was, there were probably fans in Ruston that would have paid good money to be on the trigger end of that earlier in the season.
It probably would have. Also, a game I was monitoring, Tibbs, was the All Sun Belt Bowl, the J-Lab Birmingham Bowl, with Georgia Southern coming out top 29-10 over Appalachian State. And the reason why it was interesting to me, Tibbs, was pretty much the reaction from Appalachian State fans. They just seem resigned. Oh, this is just how it's going to be for a while. Metlin, did you get that same feeling?
a little bit, which is somewhat surprising.
Yes.
I mean, I'm not I guess maybe surprised that they didn't worry too much about this particular game. It was kind of hey, we're going to go play this bowl game. And then if we can beat our rival, that's great. Then we got something out of this season. But I mean, I am a little bit surprised that, there just seems to be a little bit of a downtrodden atmosphere around App right now, and not much optimism for a program with that much pride. I feel like, they ought to feel like good days are ahead of them, and I'm not feeling it from them right now.
I here's what I heard a lot of, Tibbs. It was a lot of, I don't think D'Lo is our favorite coach, by the way. I don't think he's in trouble. He should be okay. And when you hear stuff like that, that's even a little concerning, don't you think?
Especially
even with the jolt of confidence.
Well, I hope he makes it. I mean, it's his first season, and they were picked to go to a bowl game with 5 wins. If that doesn't say, A, we're getting it done on the field, that they think we're competitive enough, and off the field in the classroom, so we can be in this situation to finish with a 5-8 record, which is completely mind blowing. Hell no, he's not in trouble. Now, that's on the outside looking in. I'm sure App State fan is already, looking to see who's out there on the market and trying to replace him.
Sure.
But yeah, this is just, it's asinine when you hear fan bases like that have just unrealistic expectations.
Now, did Clay Helton do the opposite? Did he sort of kind of cement himself for a few more years? Did he do what was necessary to win back that fan base?
I don't think so. I don't think he could have done anything to win it back. I think that they were still like, good, glad you beat them. You should have.
Yeah. There's an expectation at Georgia Southern is that you win games. So Shane, you don't think Clay has done his due service to the people in Statesboro?
I think he's done okay, but I think they do demand better than okay in Statesboro, and he's probably the only one who didn't want to play App State again because all that could happen would be that he'd lose to a hated rival, and then they'd bring out the pitchforks for him if they ended up losing that game. So good for Clay Helton that Georgia Southern was able to beat a struggling App State team because the ire would have been raised pretty high for Georgia Southern if he hadn't done that.
Pretty good game for senior running back O.J. Arnold in that game, 152 yards on 11 carries. French, he gets his 171 yards and a touchdown. I believe he entered the transfer portal right after the game, which is kind of funny. Wasn't it funny that after the games, that's when the action for the portal would begin for that team? All of a sudden, guys would be like, oh, I'm peacing out. It's been real, boys.
Yeah, it makes you wonder how many of them had something in their NIL deals where they had to finish the season to get their last check or something like that.
I have to admit that it did feel like Appalachian State. I don't know what was going on with them, but they immediately had 20 guys jump into the transfer portal before the bowl game. And of course, which was odd to me because Georgia State had kind of similar activity, but Georgia State wasn't going to a bowl game. So it was kind of interesting to me to see most teams from the Sun Belt who were going to a bowl game kind of held off on players jumping into the portal, except for Appalachian State. That was strange to me.
It could be because they didn't necessarily think they were going at first.
Could be. Yeah. That's a good point.
I want to go back to Tibbs though earlier saying that the expectations at App State might be too high. I don't necessarily agree with that. I think the expectations at App State ought to be really high. The problem is App State, JMU, Coastal, Georgia Southern, maybe ODU. All of those schools ought to feel like they should win the East every year. And one of them's going to finish fifth.
Yeah.
At best. So I think that's the tough thing right now.
And here's the thing about the East is sometimes you're the king. For a while, Appalachian State was the king. For a while, Georgia Southern was the king.
Marshall. I didn't even mention Marshall.
Yeah,
they have high expectations too.
For a while, Marshall was the king. For a while, Coastal was the king. And right now, JMU is the king. Next season, maybe JMU is the one that finishes fifth. So it's really hard for a fan base. I know how it feels, Appalachian State fans. Arkansas State had its glory years. Arkansas State had its time when everybody was talking about, oh, we're going to be in the top 25. We're going to do all this great stuff. That time's gone now. And it's hard. It's like have you ever flown first class and then had to go back to coach? That's kind of what it's like when your team is no longer the best in the conference. It stinks. It sucks. Now, Tibbs will never understand how that feels because ULM will never be the best in the conference. And that's good. You know what, Tibbs? That is good for you. I am glad you were spared that pain. You should be on your knees thanking God for the mediocrity of the Warhawks.
I'm sorry, I can't hear you over the clanging of me cleaning the Rice Bowl trophy.
Well done, sir. You did kick our asses. Speaking of Rice, do we care that Texas State beat Rice 41-10 in the Lockheed Martin Armed Forces Bowl.
I think it was a telling tale of how much we cared about that bowl when the parachuter hit the guideline for the net and somehow survived a 35-foot fall.
30-foot fall.
And nothing it was sore, but didn't have like the jello legs or anything like that.
Didn't shatter his ankles, didn't puncture a lung. That guy was tough.
Not just a fall, like those wires could slice a person in half if you hit it the wrong way or with too much speed. That's crazy dangerous.
Should we be worried about the state of our armed forces that we can't get guys to properly parachute into a stadium?
That's not armed forces people. That's people that are like one Jeremy Harper.
Okay. I'm not going to disparage.
About 3 beers in, going, hey, do you want to jump out of this plane?
You're not going to catch me disparaging the troops. Anyway, Texas State, they kind of run roughshod over Rice, the same Rice team that beat the Cajuns earlier in the year. But again, do we care, Tibbs, that this even happened?
It does, because for right now, they still have the SBC sun rising logo on their chest, so it did give us that 4th win of the bowl season. If not, it's a little hairy there of being essentially a 3-5, taking them out of the mix and reducing that Sunbelt on Sunbelt game there that we just talked about. I think we care about that. I think that those of us that got to see him really appreciating the quarterback there for Texas State. He was special. He was good. He's probably going to go somewhere else and get the bag.
Yeah. He was his usual efficient self. 174 yards and 3 touchdowns. Didn't even crack 200 yards. Still had 3 touchdowns on the day. Perry with his 106 yards and a touchdown. Yeah, again, we haven't seen a whole lot of movement with Texas State in the portal zone right now. I wonder if guys are just going to stick around, see how that Big 12 action is going to be. Shane, did you see any of the game? Did you care? Did you care about the guy? Did you care about the game?
I can't say that I cared a lot, but I'm with Tibbs. It's 4-6 sounds a lot better than 3-7 when you're when you're adding up those bowl records, and you got to count them one more time. You could have disowned them if they lost, but it is what it is.
And it doesn't count towards the Booba Cup standings.
No, it does not. So here's a game that was looking pretty good before the Sun Belt. Southern Miss, Western Kentucky, and the New Orleans Bowl. You get a halftime lead of 13-6. And then it just falls apart in the 4th quarter. Western Kentucky scores 14. Southern Miss stuck at 0. It just seemed kind of like a typical Southern Miss game, didn't it? Just kind of a strong start and then finishing, and then just a lackluster finish. Don't you think so, too?
Yeah, I felt like that was a Braylon Braxton seeing how the other half lived, because he was harassed. He was rushed on every throw that he had.
Yeah.
He was not comfortable in that game whatsoever, and it really showed. It was borderline thinking that they went in the stands and pulled a guy out. I mean, it was really that rusty of a showing for him.
Yeah, he had 258 yards and a touchdown. But man, it's like Western Kentucky has our number. I know you're going to point out James Madison had the win over Western Kentucky. Shane, I get it. But Western Kentucky has had the number for most of the Sun Belt. Am I right?
Yeah. I think it was Brett McMurphy that pointed it out that Western Kentucky's beaten the Sun Belt a lot in the postseason. I'll just throw this. I was going to wait till we got through all the games, but I'll just throw this out here now.
Okay.
4 of the losses in the bowl games came to Louisiana Tech, already on their way to the Sun Belt.
Yeah.
Jacksonville State, Delaware,
and
Western Kentucky.
Yeah.
Does the Sun Belt just need to go to 20 teams and take all those so we don't have to worry about it anymore?
Yes, it is embarrassing. You say Delaware, and you're right. It was embarrassing to see Delaware pretty much not trounce, but handedly defeat the Cajuns in the 68 Ventures Bowl. Yeah, especially since the Cajuns are supposed to be. You might disagree with me, Tibbs, but I feel like the Cajuns are one of the more established and premier members of the Sun Belt, right? They've had their years of glory. They're supposed to be better than this. Delaware, their first year into FBS play, gets their bowl win over a granddaddy of the Sun Belt. Was that not just kind of embarrassing?
Sorry, my microphone is not working. I can't comment on that, Jeremy, of spewing that positivity that you wish for me to do.
I know that would be hard, but you can admit with a light heart that it was embarrassing, right?
Blue hen, blue hose, whatever. Yeah, you lose to a chicken in any form or fashion. That's pretty bad, especially from the Cajuns where you're supposed to be cooking up those chickens.
Yeah, and it's again indicative of the Cajuns all year. Unable to score points, not enough defense to prevent points from getting scored. Lunch Winfield didn't have a horrible line, 231 yards and a touchdown. Still, just got to be just a terrible year for Coach D. You gotta believe, kind of like Appalachian State. You gotta believe that Cajun fans are going a little bit stir crazy right now, don't you think, Tibbs?
No doubt. They have this brand new, nice, amazing stadium that's not getting filled up. They're struggling across the board, right? I mean, men's basketball is pretty bad. Women's basketball has one win on the season, nothing in Sun Belt, and then football didn't live up to expectations of competing for the West or a Sun Belt title. There's a lot of pissed off fans down there, and they're really almost nervously waiting to see what happens in baseball and softball season when those are definitely sports that they should be dominating hands down. And the question is, will they?
Yeah, and last year for baseball was a down year for their standards, a down year. So, gosh, what's going on? What's going on in Lafayette? I guess to be determined. But Shane, a really good win for the Sun Belt, a great win for one of our favorite coaches, Coach Ronnie. Old Dominion 24, South Florida 10. Old Dominion, they got Hennicle. I think his name's Hennicle. Is that right? He's the leading rusher. He's just like Colton Joseph. You know, he's just sort of another version of him. Gets 2 touchdowns on the ground. What'd you think of that game?
Yeah, that was a big one.
Probably the best win for us, right?
Yeah, and I think it went a long way. I think it wasn't just about ODU. It wasn't just about the Sun Belt. It was almost an argument for the group of 5. I realize, it was 2 good group of 5, group of 6 teams playing with USF. But there was just so much of this debate about JMU didn't play anybody. JMU didn't beat anybody. And all along we were trying to say ODU is a pretty good team. Yeah. And I think it went and it kind of it justified a little bit of everything that there are some good teams in the Sun Belt. There's some good teams in the group of 5. They beat up on each other. And I do think it was maybe important for the overall narrative of not just for those teams, but for just where college football is. And there are some legit good players. There's some legit good teams everywhere, including Old Dominion.
Yeah, and one thing about what a lot of people kind of forgot is that Old Dominion played Indiana. I can't remember if it was the first or second week of the season. They held their own against Indiana. They played one of the better games against Indiana. And everybody kind of forgot about that. Indiana goes undefeated. Nobody really mentions that ODU game. But ODU was a strong team. One hell of a team. And finishes the season 10-3. One of the prides of the Sun Belt. Ricky Ronnie's got to be pretty happy about
Yeah, and they've got to be feeling like they can build off of that. I mean, obviously you lose Colton Joseph, but they're bringing some guys back. They're bringing, like, Ricky Ronnie's not going anywhere. There was all that talk for a while when James Franklin got hired that Ricky Ronnie would go be an assistant at Virginia Tech. And I think that's a huge deal for ODU too. They're like, their head coach is sticking around and he's not taking bigger money maybe to go be an assistant. I think it's something big for the Monarchs to build off of.
Yeah, if Hennikel sticks around, that's going to be another good year for Old Dominion. A game that I also found disappointing, Thibodeau, was Troy's performance against Jacksonville State. You know, they start off again. It's one of these games where the Sun Belt team, Troy, is winning at halftime, 13-7. They're winning after the third quarter by a smaller margin. It's completely shut out in the fourth. Jacksonville State gets the touchdown and the win. It's another kind of like, here's one. It's a Conference USA team beating what is supposed to be one of the better teams in the Sun Belt. What do you read in those tea leaves, Dusty?
I think that was a bigger game than we know about because it was an in-state rival.
Yeah.
They haven't played very many times, and now that's going to have a deeper impact to Troy on the recruiting front,
yes,
on the booster front, the alumni front, everything else. So I think that was a lot bigger of a game than what we can really understand and what we can put into words. But I still feel that kind of capped off a better than expected Troy season, because I think coming into the year, knowing that they had their struggles last year, none of us saw them winning the West. None of us saw them kind of hanging in there with JMU in that title game. And so you really got to applaud it that while it didn't go their way, it was a pretty successful season.
Yeah, these are good points that you make. You know, I guess I'm just looking at the microcosm of the game and thinking you got to beat a CUSA opponent. You got to beat an in-state rival. You got to beat Jacksonville State. But you're right. Troy wasn't even supposed to be very good this year. You know, Gerard, I keep calling him that. Jared Parker, you know, I think is this his second year? This is his second year, right?
Yeah, second year.
He did a good job. You know, he had some quarterback issues going on. He had some personnel issues going on. And you're right. He's stuck in that. He was in the thick of the Sun Belt race up until the end when they won the Sun Belt, at least the Sun Belt West. And you're right. Had a good game against JMU. You know, we were a little, actually, if I recall, I was a little worried about JMU after that game. But give Troy credit, give Jared Parker credit. You know, you lose Goose Crowder at the beginning of the year. Kilcrease starts off pretty good and then sort of seems to lose his zip, and still they manage 8 wins. But man, just do me a favor and beat Jacksonville State next time. And then the last game before the big game, you know, this is a game I attended myself because I'm an Arkansas State fan. I'm a citizen of Arkansas State. The very first ever, boys, the very first ever Xbox Bowl in Frisco, Texas. When they announced this, guys, it was, Arkansas State is going to a bowl game in Frisco. They didn't even have, for sure, their sponsor ready yet. But I'm telling you, when I got there, it was nailed down tight. Microsoft had everything going. They had some characters dressed up as like Legend of Zelda and Master Chief and a couple other guys that I didn't recognize because I'm old and square. They treated the players right with new Xboxes. Everything was first class about the facility. The facility was small, but it made the crowd feel pretty lively and ratcheted it up. We had a great time in Frisco, Texas. The game itself was one of those typical Butch Jones games where we have where Arkansas State has the game in hand. I think they had something like a 20-point lead. They allow Missouri State to score 21 in the fourth quarter. Arkansas State, as usual, when they win, it's by one score, 34-28 to cap off a 7-6 season. Did you guys even watch the game?
I saw bits and pieces of it.
Come on, man. You can do better than that. How about you, Tibbs?
No, I did actually watch the post-game trophy presentation, though, because I thought that was really cool when the Chief gave the trophy and the MVP for offense and defense got essentially the Xbox Achievement Award little screen that pops up there.
GG, good game. Jalen Rayner finishes his Red Wolves career with 288 yards and 3 touchdowns. He had a pretty good night. So everybody had a pretty good night. I mean, even though the game was unnecessarily close in the end, they did what mattered most. Of course, Rayner enters the transfer portal pretty much the next week. He's now off to Iowa State. But here's the big game, guys. The game that, depending on your gastrointestinal fortitude, was either the game you're looking forward to or the game that was creating the most stress for you. And that's Oregon versus James Madison. The outcome's 51-34 Oregon. But let me tell you something. James Madison, you talk to anybody who watched the game, people were impressed with the Dukes. They were impressed with the way they approached the game plan with just unconventional play calling. I mean, they had Oregon on their, they had Oregon thinking every play, because every play was something crazy or whacked out that was coming out of James Madison. James Madison, I'm going to admit, they were slower than Oregon. They were smaller than Oregon. But my God, I thought James Madison played a better game than Oregon. Am I just using too much hyperbole, Shane Metlin?
Maybe. The thing is, JMU came out. I was surprised how well they played offensively for 60 minutes. They moved the ball in the first half. They didn't get touchdowns, which put them in a hole. And I was a little bit surprised that it was the defense that let them down in the first half in particular. I feel like it was a little bit of, they were overmatched to a degree. I don't know that JMU really, even if they played their absolute best, they might not have won that game. But it did kind of feel like maybe they weren't quite ready for the moment in the first quarter. They give up those big plays. They get behind. And then they settle in, and they're pretty competitive for the next 3 quarters. But it was, maybe that's the thing about this day and age. Like, usually in the past in college sports, this would have been what you build up to. And as a program for JMU, you get to the playoff this year, and then maybe you bring some of those guys back, and next year you're actually ready for the playoff because you've been there before.
Yeah.
That's the disappointing thing, I think, about like all the transfer stuff is like, even if JMU makes it back to the playoff next year, it's not going to be the same guys, and it's going to be kind of the same thing all over again.
Not even the same coach. Yeah.
Yeah. And so you just don't ever see that, like, the early days of Gonzaga basketball where it was like, they're winning all these games, and then they get to the NCAA tournament, and then they make the Sweet 16, and now they know what it takes, and they build off of that. Like, I just don't know if we're ever going to see that from a non-power school ever again.
Yeah, I'm surely this new presidential administration is going to come up with a crackerjack plan to make that happen for you. James Madison ends up winning the second half 28-17, which is no such thing as a second half victory. But you could tell, Tibbs, that Oregon's coach, whose name I suddenly forget, was not happy about that second half outcome.
No, they definitely treated it like it was a loss, and they probably rightfully should have, because there were times in that first half I looked at it and Oregon looked like the Bo Jackson on Tecmo Bowl cheat mode. That they were just hands down bigger, better, faster, stronger than anything James Madison was throwing at them. And still, it was a competitive game. Yes, Oregon had the more depth. They had the more seasoned players that had been there before and knew what to expect. But James Madison gave them everything they could. And I think that it was a great call to have them in the CFP. They represented well. what a better way for our one and only time we'll probably ever have a team in there, because they're changing the rules again to keep us out.
And Tulane, to their discredit, I didn't feel like played a very good game against Ole Miss. But James Madison actually did play a good game against Oregon. You saw what Oregon did to Texas Tech the next week. It just shut out Texas Tech. And Texas Tech should be a pretty good team. I believe ranked or got that bye week win, won the Big 12. So kudos to James Madison. I saw a lot of online talk at the beginning of the college football playoffs, really castigating the selection of James Madison in the playoffs. Now the talk is, hey, James and Madison acquitted themselves well. The group of 5 acquitted themselves well. There's a lot of mea culpa going on. Tibbs, I don't know. I think you're right. They're going to find a way to prevent this from ever happening again. That's too bad, because I think we proved that we belonged on that stage.
And another reason that we'll never see it again, the portal taketh away, but so far the portal not giveth. The stars of the Sun Belt are now the stars in the P4.
Yeah.
Starting at your home there, Jeremy, Jalen Rayner. He is now a Cyclone.
Yeah.
At Iowa State.
Yeah.
Colton Joseph headed to the Big Ten. In Wisconsin, Alonzo Barnett headed to Central Florida, as we had said.
Alonzo. Yeah. Back me up on this, Shane.
Yeah, that's what he said.
I thought you said Alonzo.
No.
Did you say Alonzo, Tibbs? Did I Alonzo-splain you incorrectly? You're getting good with that. Yeah, I like that.
ULM's own wide receiver, Jonathan Bibbs. He is headed to wear the powder blue and play with Belichick and Jordan.
All right.
Even the Georgia State kicker entered the portal and found a new home, with Braden McAllister headed up there also with you there, Jeremy. He's headed to Fayetteville to play for the Woo Pig Suey.
Yeah, I guess that's a great move for him. I don't know. I don't know what kind of move that's. Also, defensive back for South Alabama, Nehemiah Chandler, first team selection. He's going to Florida State. So and Tayshaun Chapman, a wide receiver for Southern Miss. He's off to Memphis. So we're beginning to see some Sun Belt guys jumping into the portal and emerging in other places. I suspect that within the next 2 or 3 days, we're going to see a lot more of that kind of action.
The question I have for y'all in the portal, because I've seen it with some guys where they were playing D1 football, maybe not as many snaps as they felt that they were entitled to, that they had earned, whatever. They jump into the portal. First school to offer them is, hell, it might as well have been St. Francis, who ULM opened up with, that's dropping from D1 to D3. Or it's, the McNeese when they were at Alabama or whatever. Is that a sign of that kid should have been lucky that he was playing D1 where he was at? Or is that I'm chasing the bag? And some of these smaller schools actually have some money tied to them that, okay, yeah, I got a Don and McNeese jersey, but I'm making more than I was at whatever school.
Yeah, I have a feeling Shane's going to have a much better grip on this. But it seems like the popular opinion, and I'd like to see how Shane weighs in on this, but it seems like the popular opinion is a lot of these kids are just getting bad advice. They get a guy who calls himself an agent and says, dude, I can get you a lot more money someplace else. They don't appreciate you here. You're at ULM. You should be at LSU. We're going to help work this out. And then you're going to find out you're going to see a lot of guys just not getting picked up anywhere or going to FCS like you mentioned, Tibbs. But then also I don't know if some of these guys are being told by their coaches, hey, you should probably explore the waters because you're not going to go any further here. Shane, I'd love to hear your thoughts on that.
I don't know if there's like a one size fits all answer for any of it. I think everybody's situation's a little bit different. I think there's a certain percentage of kids who are getting bad advice or have an agent that's not qualified to be giving them advice. I think there's others where, some people are in college and, maybe a school's offering you 50 grand more and that's life-changing money for you right now. And maybe there's others in a situation where you can get by for the next 2 years without that money because you know what your degree is going to be when you graduate or your family's already comfortable or whatever. Like everybody's in a little bit different situation. Alonzo Barnett, has a degree from JMU. His coach is gone. What would really be keeping him at JMU at this point when, he's already fulfilled his academic requirements and done everything he can do there, athletically. So, I think everybody's situation's a little bit different. It's hard. Everybody wants to have their opinion on the portal. And I think everybody's situation is a little bit different to judge each individual. Who knows why somebody might go from, say a Georgia Southern to a school that doesn't sound as enticing as Georgia Southern, but
Sure.
But who knows what the actual situation ends up being.
I think what was missed there, though, Shane, is you laid out that example where the guy was already graduated, on the cusp of graduating. These are guys that are 19 and, hey, I wound up having a red shirt last year when the coach told me I was going to play and all that.
Yeah.
That's then transferring out. The question that I still don't understand is at what point in time is Blue Mountain State held accountable for the APR sanctions? Because the NCAA has no control over anything for athletics, but they still control that part and can drop the hammer like we saw with Akron and their low APR scores. When do we see that part kind of come in from these guys bouncing as a TJ Finley looking for what is 9th, 12th school or whatever it is?
Yeah, I don't know. I honestly don't really know where the APR and things fit into it as we go forward. And but you're right. There is there's consequences to it from both sides, be it the player or the school.
I did notice something too that I wonder is going to become more and more common with the group of five. I've got an example from Arkansas State. Arkansas State picked up a Vanderbilt tight end last offseason, a guy named Tyler Fortenberry, who wasn't being used much by the Commodores. This year, he starts at Arkansas State. He puts up a lot of good tape. He made some big catches. So he kind of proved himself to be a good pass-catching tight end. And then now he's back in the portal again. And it seems to me like there's this sort of I don't know, so strategy amongst some players, especially in the P4 ranks buried on the depth chart, that says, hey, I'll jump into go to a P5 or a group of 6 team that needs somebody to play. I'll put out my tape, and then the next year, maybe I get my big bag.
Yeah, I think that's definitely happening. And it's probably that may be something that the coaches are even selling them on. Who knows? There's so many meetings happening here this week with players going to have their visits.
Yeah.
And it's not the same kind of official visit people used to take where you go on the campus tour and one of the players takes you to a party and maybe you catch a basketball game while you're there. They sit down with their agents, they hammer out a deal and they see if they're going to take it.
That doesn't seem like, as kind of, I don't know, crass as it sounds. I don't mind my team picking up a 1-year rental if it means it's a guy who can make a contribution. Maybe that's not so bad for me. I guess I'd rather not lose a guy that I've spent 2 seasons, teaching the trade of football only to have them go off and to some other program and become a star there. That's irritating. But
the other thing, I don't know if you guys have heard the same thing around the programs that you cover, but one thing I've heard this year, not just from JMU people, but just kind of from national reporting and stuff, is that these teams, the Power 4 teams and stuff, last year it was sort of like, oh, if Texas Tech is spending the whole $20 million, they're spreading it around for the whole roster. Everybody's getting some. Like, obviously the quarterback's getting a little bit more, but everybody's taken care of. From what I've heard this year, the Power 4 teams are more in line to be like, we're going to pay our quarterback, we're going to pay our first team running back, we're going to pay our left tackle, we're going to pay a pass rusher, and they're going to get millions, and everybody else can go find their own NIL deals.
I would love. First of all,
but that's a game changer if that's really the way it is. Because, like, okay, so yeah, you're not going to keep Jalen Rayner if he's able to go get Power 4 quarterback money, but maybe you've got a pretty damn good nose tackle and safety and left guard, because the other positions are getting all that money. And if you do get that bounce back quarterback who was a 4-star somewhere and is just looking to play, maybe you do have a pretty damn good team at the G5 level because you like are playing Moneyball basically.
I guess that's what we need more of, Shane, is more of a Moneyball mentality instead of a, oh, woe is me mentality, which I currently have. I'll be happy to admit it's easier to bitch than to innovate, right? And that's kind of where I am right now.
Yeah, but it's the same thing in the pros. I mean, how many teams spend all their money on a quarterback and don't have an offensive line to protect him, or vice versa? There's nobody behind that $1 billion offensive line. It'll balance itself out. I think so.
Speaking of balance, it looks like women's basketball might be the thing in the Sun Belt. I believe we have seen now 5 sub 100 net programs from the Sun Belt. Am I right about that, Shane Netlin?
Yeah. It is a pretty good year for women's basketball. We talk about how everything's stacked against the group of 5 and the mid-majors and everything. Women's basketball quietly is as rigged as any of them, because the net quadrants are not, I don't know if people realize this. The quadrant system for the net for women's basketball is not the same.
I did not know that.
As men's. It is even more difficult for a team in the Sun Belt to get a quad 1 win. You have to beat either a top 25 team at home.
Wow. Okay.
A top 35 team on a neutral court, or top 45 on the road.
Wow.
So you basically have to beat like one of the best teams in the country to get a quad 1 win. So even with the Sun Belt this year, JMU has beaten Virginia Tech, Wisconsin, Boston College, Troy's beaten Missouri, Arkansas State's beaten Arkansas. None of these are quad 1 wins.
No, they should be.
Yeah. So it's a good year. They're racking up the Power 4 wins. I don't know it's going to get a second team into the NCAA tournament, but maybe somebody gets a 12 seed and can win a first round game. Because in women's basketball, that's also a huge thing. They play, if you're a 14 seed, you're playing a road game against a really good team in the first round. If you're a 12 seed, you're playing on a neutral court. And so like that could be a huge difference for the Sun Belt this year.
How much of that, Shane, is also the bottom dwellers? I mean, you have App State, Coastal, Louisiana Lafayette, all over in the Sun Belt Conference.
Yeah, it hurts. I don't think there's any 300 or worse teams in the Sun Belt this year, is there? Like
for the women?
Yeah.
Are you talking about for the women?
Louisiana. Yeah.
Hang on. I'll get that number. You go on.
Okay. But the good thing is you're going it's tough because JMU and App, or not App, JMU and Troy are the best when it comes to net rankings. They're not even going to play each other in the regular season this year. But you do at least get some good games in conference. You get some top 100 games in conference, which is what hurt last year. The Ivy League in women's had 3 really good teams. They all played each other twice. So all of a sudden they've got good games on their schedule. Their strength of schedule looks good. And it was basically all based on Harvard beating Indiana early in the season. So the Sun Belt has that a little bit. Like there's going to be some good games, or at least games that don't hurt your strength of schedule in conference. Like
to go back to your question, there is one 300 program in the Sun Belt, and it is 0-12 Louisiana. They're hovering at 325. Everybody is sub.
Which is tough. Arkansas State and Troy are having good years, and they're going to have to play them twice, and that's not going to help.
No, that sucks. Yeah, Troy's really good. So in the men's side, we had a really good game between James Madison and Arkansas State, the two teams that were projected to go 1-2. Did you catch that game, Netlin?
I did. To a degree. I was at the Jamie women's game happening at the same time, so I had it on my computer.
Okay. Yeah.
And it seemed like every time I took my eyes off it for a second, somebody had made like a 10-0 run and gone for being way behind to like ahead.
It was a game of 10-0 runs. It was for sure. Arkansas State went cold at the wrong time. JMU stayed fairly hot, but neither team was really shooting lights out. You could tell that there's probably some issues with both programs. It was a big win for James Madison because they hadn't won a conference game thus far. They've had that long road trip. Eventually, James Madison will come home, but good win for James Madison. We have no sub 100 teams from the net. So really, we're looking at one team in the program, and it's going to be whoever wins the Sun Belt tournament. Correct.
Yeah, it's not a great year for Sun Belt men's basketball. And I do kind of wonder too, like we talked so much about the portal football recently. Like I look at JMU and I like, this is just my example because I know their roster well. I have to think there's probably some of this going on in other places. And I don't think Preston Spradlin or anybody would admit this, but I look at JMU's roster and I just feel like they put it together kind of hoping we can be decent this year, but let's just have a few guys we can keep next year. And maybe we're only bringing in 7 transfers instead of 13. And like, I got to wonder if there's not other teams looking to do that. You look at Troy, who I feel like is probably the best team in the Sun Belt, not to knock Georgia Southern, who's surprisingly undefeated still. But I look at Troy and it's like, okay, did you think Victor Valdez was like an absolute superstar last year? No. But hey, you brought him back and he knows the system. He knows the league. He knows everything. He's looking really good. Thomas Dowd's looking really good. Were these guys like superstars in the Sun Belt last year? No. But hey, if you can bring some guys back from year to year, I think that's something.
I will say that I thought Thomas Dow was a stud. I mean, he was unheralded. He wasn't like – he had some other guys on the team that got a little more press, but that guy killed us. And now he's killing everybody. I thought your Gabe Newhoff guy, that guy was just unstoppable against us. I mean, there are some players that are kind of standing out that are interesting. But you're right. What was a funny stat between that James Madison Arkansas State game was that the only player on that team, on either team, that was there last year was Ricks.
Yeah.
He's the only guy. Eddie Ricks. He's the only guy who was in the Sun Belt during this last year. So that's just a weird sensation. Tibbs, what's going on with the Warhawks?
Can't score.
Let me ask you this. I know you hate talking about them, but the Cajuns get the new head coach, the Houston guy. And it was kind of thought, okay, this guy is really going to recruit some, badass players, and they're going to make a serious run for the Sun Belt. And thus far, they are awful. What happened?
A lot of injuries and a lot of piecemealed roster this year. He has a great class for next year.
Okay.
We all just have to suffer through this season, but next year the Cajuns will be pretty damn good.
Okay. So long as they don't transfer out somehow.
That's
Exactly
what I was talking about, though, is like I think there's some of these coaches that really just, are maybe willing to sacrifice a year if it means give me 3 or 4 guys coming back that can play. They don't even have to be stars, just 3 or 4 guys that can play, and then I'll get somebody in the portal to round out the starting lineup. But like just a few guys who like know what we're doing here,
who know the system, who know the goals, who understand what the coaches expect, who could almost act as coaches on the floor.
Yeah.
Absolutely. We just don't have that in the Sun Belt right now. So who, Shane, I don't know if you know the answer to this question. Who in the Sun Belt has the most guys or has the most experience? What is the most experienced team in the Sun Belt, in your opinion?
I mean,
it was Troy last year.
I could probably pull that up on KinPom and tell you exactly who it is.
Oh, wow.
But this is fascinating radio here as I like click around on my computer. But
you think Tibbs would right now just put together a sound effect for us? But
I think it's probably, I would guess it's probably Troy this year.
Troy again? Okay.
Are you talking overall experience, like Division I experience? Or are you talking about like experience at their school?
Experience at their school. People who know the coaches and
I would guess it's probably Troy. Like I said, they've got a couple guys who started or played big minutes for them last year. They're back. Like, I know they lost guys in the portal, but like I said, Victor Valdez was a role player for a couple of years and a good one. And I really liked him as a player. I liked Thomas Dowd as a player, but all you have to do is come back and you have a chance to be a superstar. It's like kind of crazy.
That's the new Sunbelt slogan, Tibbs. Just come back and you'll be a superstar.
Rising if you come back.
Tibbs, is it time for our favorite segment of the show? What the gong? No. That's not
too much dust on it. We had to knock it off there.
All right. Okay. You do have to keep gongs fresh. You can't let them go stagnant. No, it's
right.
Plugs, promos, and parting shots, right?
That it is. Okay. I think we make Metlin go since he has yet to produce a Netland episode this year, despite saying, yeah, guys, I think I should do that.
You did do that. Come on, Netlin.
I do think I should do that.
Okay, come on. You would know. If you were doing a Netlin, you would know who is the most experienced team on the top of your head.
Yeah. There's not very many experienced teams. I didn't even think about this ahead of time, so I am just going to plug
DNR online.
Yep, do it. Read our stuff. There's going to be transfer portal coverage, finding out what Billy Napier's doing as he gets back into the Sun Belt. We didn't even talk about like that side of things.
That's an intriguing storyline.
With what's going on at Louisiana is like, if Napier has some success, that may make things even tougher in Lafayette. But but no, really just check it out. Listen, we're also trying to build up a little more podcast channel there, competing with with Believe Network a little bit. Like
mama.
They probably won't like me plugging that, but go ahead and check it out.
They won't notice.
No wonder we didn't get a ad check this month.
Shit.
I don't have anything either. I should have thought of something. As much grief as I give Shane, I give you, Jeremy. I really have.
I got a little something.
Sorry. Yeah, I'll work on something at our next month's episode. Since, that seems to be our new interval.
No, we are back once a week. Come on, man.
Jeremy, you can't go too long. My battery is about to die.
It'll be brief. So, One of the things that I noticed when we talk about the transfer portal, this is something I would hear a lot from my own readers or trolls that would follow me online. They'd say, hey, listen, yeah, they take from us, but we take from them too, meaning the group of five loses players, but then they gain players from the Power Four. But there's really a good example that happened at Arkansas State that I'd like to point out. It's not really a slight on anybody. I'm not trying to slam anybody. But for instance, Arkansas State, they lose their three-year starter, Jalen Rayner, to a Power 4 team. That's a guy who's had 3 years of experience on the field, being a starter, leading the team. I don't know if he's the best quarterback in the world, but he's sure as hell serviceable, knows what he's doing out there. He's a quarterback with a lot of experience, right? And he's won a lot of games. In return, Arkansas State also got a quarterback from the transfer portal, a guy from Vanderbilt, following his offensive coordinator, or one of his coordinators, to Arkansas State. He's a senior this year, a total of 3 starts. And my point is yes, we take guys from the Power 4. The Power 4 takes guys from us. But we don't get the superstars of the Power 4. We get guys who have started or played in 3 games over the last 4 seasons. So please spare me this, hey, we take, they take. It all comes out in the end. It doesn't. And that is my parting shot.
I think I'm going to enter the portal soon there, Jeremy.
I think Shane's battery needs to enter the portal.
If you like the show, please take a moment to rate, review, and subscribe. It really does help the show to grow. Thank you for listening.